What is up, everybody? Welcome back here for another episode of Dolphins versus the World. And as always, we're joined by the man behind the camera, our producer, Joel. And with me, as always, my co-host, Anthony. Anthony, how are you feeling before this big-time game coming up?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm excited. I'm trying not to be super jealous of Germany. Why they get this game is beyond me, but nonetheless, I'm excited for this game. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I think when talking about this game, I think that's almost where you should start with sort of the game being in Germany and the travel of these two teams. Very, very different approaches here. And I just kind of from viewing social media, I saw the Dolphins, like when they got there, players from the team were just out exploring, visiting stuff, which is cool to see. But like you said, and we were talking about on the last episode, like there's so many distractions here. I'd be curious to see kind of what the Chiefs' approach to it is here. I wonder if they were decided to go late just because of they knew the circus of the media and what everything to do is. I don't know. I can't tell you that, but I think it makes sense if that was their approach. But what do you see and kind of what do you think about the differences in travel?
Yeah, I mean, I love the Dolphins approach, and at the end of the day, the thing that's going to speak the most is what the results are, right? So if the Chiefs go out there and win the game, then obviously there's a lot more to it. There's injuries, talent, scheme, matchups, stuff like that. But I love the Dolphins approach because like junior year of college, I really started prioritizing sleep and all that, and I've talked about it, and not to keep going on with it, but one of the things I learned, again, the book is called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. And he talks about in there how when you travel, like he's talking about it for like melatonin. I don't know if anyone's ever taken it, but it's a natural hormone that your body creates for sleep. But anyway, not to get into the science of it, but he says when you travel, he talks about like how you can use melatonin to reset your clock. And in it, he says like if you're traveling, the research has shown that it takes as many days for your body to fully adjust as hours difference. So I love the Dolphins approach because there's a 5-hour time difference between you guys and Germany. And that means they'll be fully adjusted by Sunday. The Chiefs aren't flying out till today, so they're probably in the air right now. I mean, that's hard. And I think, Chase, that what we're going to see here, obviously there's matchup and things like that we'll get into that probably plays a little more of a factor, but there's two different philosophies. There's the Dolphins, which is let's get out there. They traveled on Monday. Tuesday's normally a rest day, so they don't work anyway. So Tuesday they used it as let's go out, let's see the sights with your family. That's another thing. Stephen Ross is a phenomenal owner. He's paying for people's players' families to go with the team, which is huge. So we're going to see. There's that approach, which is let's maybe use the first 3 days we would be practicing or preparing. Let's use that to get acclimated and let's have like 2 days of full ready to go in Germany. Or there's the Chiefs approach, which is let's try to do as much normal day-to-day as possible and then travel there and deal with the jet lag. But they're definitely going to deal with jet lag. I would love the Dolphins approach. That's the approach I would be taking if I were a head coach. So we shall see.
Yeah, and same. I like it a lot. I think there's a bit of history, like I was saying before, that shows why it's the smarter way to go about this. And we'll see. I mean, you'll be able to tell, I think, if it makes a difference. Another thing that I'm keeping my eye on as a difference maker is the field. You've heard players talking about it this year, especially just about how much they don't like the fields over there. I don't know what they use at Tottenham Hotspur and Stadium and Wembley Stadium. I think it's the same thing, but what I just was reading was that it's a hybrid surface, which is 90% grass and then 10% synthetic turf. To me, I don't know what that means. I'll be honest with you. What I assume that it means is it's mostly grass and it's going to be a lot difficult to play on. These players aren't used to this. We've been seeing ACL and stuff like that. I wonder if this just factors into how you're playing on these games. It's just something else to account for, something else you shouldn't have to. I don't know why they can't have a turf stadium or turf field just rolled out there. It doesn't seem like it'd be that hard, but for better or worse, it's what it's going to be. Both teams are dealing with it, so it's not different, but I wonder if the Dolphins have been practicing on it. I wonder if the Chiefs have been practicing on it. Do you have any take on the field?
Not really. I know like turf players hate turf. I think more so for me, the thing I'm looking at with this stadium is the fact that it's closed. It's an indoor stadium, which is huge, because I think that bodes well for the Dolphins. I know it's chillier there in Germany, but I think that bodes well for the Dolphins and their operation on offense.
No, I think
But
the roof is open, I believe, actually, for this. This is there's 2 games there, and this one's in Frankfurt, not Munich. So I believe this at Deutsche Bank Park in Frankfurt, which is like, it's not sort of like the Dolphin Stadium actually, but it's going to be cold. As you were alluding to.
Well, there goes a bullet point I had. Mark that one off. Mark that one off. So yeah, ignore what I just said. I have nothing to add.
Waking up at 6 a.m. and we're like, wait a minute, no way.
I'm like, wait, yeah. So never mind everything I just said. Okay, cool. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say with the field. I mean, grass trumps turf. For injuries and just playing. So, we shall see. But I don't think it should hopefully not play. I hope for both teams that there's not injuries because of that or anything.
Yeah, that'd be a real shame for something like that to happen here. But moving along, just other stuff, kind of just getting used to a new stadium. Both teams will be having to do that. But then, yeah, I mean, both teams here are in big time game modes for different reasons. The Chiefs coming off a pretty bad loss. I think it's safe to say that's a bad loss to the Broncos. And I don't think it helps them that they have to go out for a game of this caliber after. Like, normally when people are like, oh, we just lost like a bad game, you come out, you refocus. The next week you're playing like a normal game that you wouldn't have had your attention anyways. But both teams are 100% fully focused on this game. I don't think the stakes are ratcheted up any by the Chiefs being hungrier for a win. So I think also the Dolphins are equally as hungry just because, this is the best team in the NFL. You want to be the best. To be the best, you got to beat the best. So I think the Dolphins here and the Chiefs, you're going to get their 100% best effort in this game, and that's going to be awesome.
Okay, real quick before I get into that, because I thought, okay, so I looked it up, Frankfurt Stadium, and it says that the stadium in Frankfurt, which is Deutsche Bank Park, so it's a retractable roof.
Okay.
So the top of it can be closed. I believe the top of it can be closed. I'm looking at like pictures of the arena right now, and it looks like it can be closed. Here, let me try to share it real quick before I get into the point, just because I don't know if that, like, you tell me, that looks like it can be, it says it can be closed at the top. See, we're at the top.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then that'd be like sort of like the SoFi Stadium. So it'd be like wind in, but it's completely controlled environment.
Right. Now, will they close it? To your point, who knows what they're gonna do. Maybe they'll give the Chiefs the option because it's technically their home game. But in regards to the Chiefs, yeah, this is a big game for them, not only because, you're playing a team that is just as good in the division, in the conference, and has the same record as you, but, last week was kind of a wake-up call. And we've seen this with the Chiefs. They kind of play down to their opponent. That's like them to a T. I don't think that'll be the case, to the people saying that's going to happen this week. I mean, every team when they play the Dolphins knows that they have to be on their A game and score a lot of points. So I expect the Chiefs to come out fired up. How much the travel factor plays into it, I don't know, but I don't expect them to be sloppy. I think they went into last week against the Broncos both weeks and we're like, yeah, it's the Broncos, we'll beat them. But, as we talk about the offense, I mean, there's some serious issues with the Chiefs on offense. It's not, it's not just they have Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I understand he's the best quarterback in the NFL, but they don't have the greatest wide receivers. They have no running game. I mean, their running game, I want to say, is like bottom 10 in the NFL. So there's no worry about that. They have a good offensive line. But the wide receivers just not the greatest other than Travis Kelce. So this is going to be a big game for them. They can't lose 2 in a row. So I expect them to be fired up and ready to go. Plus Tyreek is on the Dolphins. So there's that little element. So it should be a good one.
Yeah. And numbers aside, like you don't need numbers to just, when you watch the Chiefs, you could tell this isn't the same offense as years past. Like you could tell that they're struggling. And whether they get that figured out eventually, I don't know. I think they probably will. It seems like they always do. But at this point, they're not. I don't even want to say they're maybe a top 5 offense. I think I could probably, if I really wanted to, name 5 better. One of those being the Dolphins for sure.
They're not a top. I mean, I don't know what you consider top 5. To me, I think you and I both align where scoring offense and defense is really what we care about, because that's what win and loses games. They're the 12th best scoring offense. So like you're right in that statement. They're not even top 10.
Yeah, and I think another interesting thing about the Chiefs that we'll talk about later is, but they're so poised. Like if they need to go like do the 2-minute drill, like they could do it, as we've seen so many times. Like they're so good, man. And the Dolphins got to be on their A game. They know that here. It's got to be a 60-minute game too, as they probably haven't had. The Dolphins haven't had to put outside of the Patriots game. Patriots first game. I don't think there's been a 60-minute performance really here.
Yeah, I think that the first 2 games, I would put the Chargers there too. I think that'd be a 60-minute where it was down to the wire. But no, I think rightfully so. I understand the skepticism with the Dolphins because we haven't beaten anyone incredible. To that I say you play the people on your opponent, and I don't know what we're supposed to do. Like, you lost to the Bills and the Eagles. I really don't think it's that big of a deal. The Eagles game wasn't that bad. The Bills game should have been closer, I will say. But the Eagles game looked worse than it was. Again, speaking of the Chiefs, they just lost to the Broncos and we put 70 on them. But what I'm trying to get to is, like, I understand the Chiefs have went to the Super Bowl, and trust me, I have a lot of respect for the Chiefs. I'm no way trying to diss them by saying what I'm about to say, but I think there's just as much to prove for them as the Dolphins here about being able to beat good teams. I mean, if you look at their schedule, people are going to talk about their defense, and certainly their defense has been good, but you look at their schedule and it's like, okay, the Chargers, they've kind of owned them. That's like a division game, and they played in Kansas City. They own them. They lost to the Broncos. The first time they played the Broncos, they only scored 19 points, and the Broncos, they're not good. They played the Vikings, who their offense has not been good this year. They played the Jets, and that was like the game where the Jets kind of got there. But they played the Jets. They played the Bears, and the Jaguars game, when they played them, it's not like they were scoring up like crazy amount of points. And then they played the Lions and lost to the Lions, right? So I look at this team, I look at their defense, I look at their offense, and I understand they're the Super Bowl champions, but I think both teams are kind of in the same area where it's like, for different reasons, it's like the offense has been good, but that's how our defense has been. And then our offense and their defense have been good, but it's almost like, okay, but there's going to be the questions of who have you played. I don't ask those, but those are going to be the questions. So I think for both teams, there's something to be proven here, because for the Dolphins, you're trying to prove that you can beat the good teams. And for the Kansas City Chiefs, you're just trying to prove that you're still extremely dominant, because I would argue to you that other than the Bears game, which if you don't look dominant against the Bears, something's wrong. They haven't looked dominant in any of their games, even their wins. Again, I'll go over their scores. Lions, they lost 21-20. Chiefs, they won 17-9. Right? They beat the Bears 41-10. That was when we were all like, okay, the Chiefs are back. They beat the Jets by a field goal. They beat the Vikings 27-20. They beat the Broncos 19-8. The Chargers, they handled 31-17, but I mean, we saw that defense straight up, like their defense just not good. And then the Broncos, the second time, they lost 24-9. So I look at this game and I see two teams hungry to kind of make a statement, because for better or for worse, everyone's going to be watching this game as two high-powered offenses, two of the best teams in the NFL going up against each other. And I think there's going to be a lot to prove.
Yeah. And I'll just say one last thing here, and then if you don't got anything else, we'll just get into keys. But if you just look at these two teams in a vacuum in this just this season, if you threw out everything else and you woke up from a coma and this is your first time ever watching football, you would think the Dolphins were the way better team. Like they have played 100 times better than the Chiefs have all season. The Dolphins have been more dominant, and the Dolphins have looked better in every aspect offensively. And then the Chiefs defense, like it's been good, but their run defense is not great. It's not great at all. And we'll talk about that more later. But yeah, I mean, the Dolphins, I don't see why they can't go in there and win this game. Like it's being talked about like that. And by the same token, I would not be surprised at all if I'm eating my words that I just said there and the Chiefs go out here and just prove to everyone that why they're so much far superior. And we're coming here sitting, talking, and like, wow, we got a long way to go. Then that would hurt. But I don't think that's going to happen. But, I mean, that's why I play the game. We'll see. We'll see what happens here. And there's just big-time ramifications. This feels like almost like two teams that are at two different points in the season and are both obviously trying to get to the end goal. And either team here, season, it's going to change after this point. They'll have a bye week to get right, but it's going to be a tough mental hurdle for both teams after this, because if the Dolphins lose, we know all the narratives that are going to be swirling around, and you got 2 weeks, long flight back from Germany to think about that. And then the same thing with the Chiefs. You got 2 losses, question after question that hasn't been answered yet, and you're at the midpoint in the season, and you got a long flight back from Germany. So, yeah, this is a game that both teams have a lot to prove and a lot to play for. And this is as big as it gets in regular season games outside of the last few weeks of the season. At least for the Dolphins' sake, I don't know. They played a bigger week. What are we? We're week 10? Or no, we're not week 10.
Nine.
Week 9 game in my life that I can think of.
No, yeah, this is I mean, obviously we all understand that aside from playoff games, the biggest games are for playoff seeding, right? We can all agree with that. Like the Dolphins game last year against the Jets was a huge game. Mm-hmm. But as far as just regular games, it doesn't really get as bigger. It doesn't get any bigger than this. So yeah, like I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happened. I have a different feeling about this game. I hope it's not the wrong feeling, but I have a different feeling about this game than the Bills and Eagles game. I do. The Bills game, looking back at it, I was way too cocky. And I'll say that even when we play them again, we got to be able to beat these teams consistently in our division. For me to, I was way too cocky about it. Now, obviously, I didn't know Connor wouldn't be playing, so that was. But was he the difference in 20 points out? No. But point is, I was feeling a little too good about that game. But like when we played the Eagles, I was like, I mean, you and I both didn't pick them to win. But I think you and I both go into this game and like I feel good, and I think that we're getting healthy at the right time. Guys are coming back from injury, and I just think that we'll get into it with the keys. I think that there's some good matchups here for the Dolphins to take advantage of. So I'll pull them up right now, and we can kind of get into them because we'll talk about the offense and defense through these, just like by nature. But yeah, we'll start off. Do you want to start off? Let's start off with number 3 because we both have the same one there, which is slowing down Travis Kelce. So like, what are your thoughts on that? I want to share something with you before you go to talk about this. So I looked up Travis Kelce. I was thinking about it while you were talking, and I was like, I wonder how Vic Fangio has done, because I think you and I are both going to mention how Vic Fangio has played against the Chiefs. He has a good feel for them. So here's Travis Kelce's stats when they don't play in Kansas City against Vic Fangio when he was a coach for Denver. Ready? In 2019, when they played at Denver, he had 6 catches, 8 targets, 44 yards. When they played at Denver in 2020, he had 3 targets, 3 catches, 31 yards. And in 2021, when they played at Denver, which was actually 2022, he had 4 catches, 5 targets, 34 yards. So when Vic Fangio has played Travis Kelce, unless it's been in Arrowhead, which that's the hardest stadium to play in, he's kind of had his number, quite honestly. And I would argue to you he's never had someone like Jalen Ramsey to possibly cover Travis Kelce. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on, like, because I think you and I both agree that like he has to be the number one weapon for you to take away on this team.
Yeah, and as we've been saying, all leading up to this game, like these receivers aren't very good. If Sky Moore, Martez Valdes-Scantling, and I just butchered his name, I know, but Rashee Rice, Justin Ross, I believe he's still there. If these guys have to beat you, Isaiah Pacheco, it's not going to happen. Like maybe they could win a close game, but with that, this offense filters through Travis Kelce. If you could find a way to just contain him, like I said, contain him. To be honest, I wasn't familiar with how Vic Fangio's played against him before, but that's encouraging stuff because in my mind, I was hoping to just limit him to like 50, 60 yards, like 4 or 5 catches. Then I would think, I'll tip my cap. That's a good job because I don't think you can fully stop him. But I mean, based off those stats, like he seemed like he had a good answer for him. Is that answer Jalen Ramsey? I don't know. I have not looked to see what Jalen Ramsey has done before. That wasn't who I was thinking we'd put on him. I thought we'd probably just stick with the basic answer and do Jerome Baker. Was Jerome Baker on the team the last time we played the Chiefs? Would you happen to know by any chance?
Yeah, he was drafted in 2018, so that was honestly Jerome Baker's best game as a professional.
That's what I was gonna say. I remember him doing like a pretty decent job. Like I know we lost the game, but I was like, dang, I thought he was okay, and it was like, oh, there might be something here, and then here we are, still waiting for a couple more steps. But
no, when we played them last, he had 136 yards receiving. So I don't know what they did, but it wasn't good.
Yeah. So see, that's what you can't let happen. But yeah, so I haven't given thought to Jalen Ramsey being the answer, but I mean, you got to have something here. Like you can't have 136 yards again. And he's been banged up, so I do think that there's ways to do it. Getting physical with him at the line of scrimmage, other stuff, and I think definitely Jalen Ramsey's going to want to answer the task. Like same thing with X. Even though X was hurt, you heard what he was saying, that he wants to cover the best guy on the field. Like these guys are competitors. They want to prove that they're the best. So that's something that I'd love to watch. That'd be a great battle just all game long, watching those two go at it. But basically what I'm just trying to say is you got to limit him and take him away whenever you can and make these other guys beat you, because these other guys are just not good at all. They're going to drop the ball. They're not going to do stuff after the catch. They're not good at getting separation. Like they're just flat out not good. I'm honestly shocked they didn't trade for any receiver at the trade deadline. I can't believe these are the guys they're going to go to war with. But yeah, so you just kind of what I want to ask is how would you go about approaching it? You would do Jalen Ramsey to cover him?
I mean, I'm curious to see. I've seen that floated around. They asked Vic Fangio in his press conference like yesterday, like if that's a thing he would do, and he kind of was like, we'll definitely be trying to move him around for sure. I think the ability the fact that Xavier is going to be playing this game, and I've said this for a couple weeks now, Xavier's been ready to play since the Eagles game. We've just kind of been holding him back, like with Connor Williams, because of the groin. And I think, kind of speaking on injuries in general, aside from maybe Teron Armstead, this is one of those games where if you're good to go, you're going, because we have a bye week after this. So, Connor Williams, I expect to play. I expect Xavier Howard. Javon's going to be playing. He'll be back. Everyone should be playing in this game. So, the fact that X is back gives you the luxury to kind of move Jalen, I think. Last week, you kind of had to just put him there, and also is the Patriots. But, I'm looking right now. Travis Kelce in last week's loss had 58 yards receiving. And I'm curious, in week 1, when they played the Lions, he had, let's see, he didn't even play. So I think and Chris Jones obviously wasn't there that game either, but I think there's something to be said that, like, there is no Tyreek Hill to account for. And I feel like the Chiefs right now are from one extreme to another, where they went from, you don't need Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, but like last year, you still had certain guys that you could rely on, and they don't have them right now. So yeah, that definitely has to be key number one. I'm curious to see what they do, but I think that if you walk away from the game limiting Kelce to like maybe 70 yards or less, that to me is a good day. Like, that would be a win for the Dolphins defense.
Yeah, and an interesting thing with the Chiefs, and I just kind of compare them to the Patriots when they had Brady. I don't know what else you can compare this team to, but like Tom Brady still needed receivers. He's going to elevate whoever he's throwing the ball to, but like Julian Edelman can still play like on any NFL team. And same thing with like Wes Welker when he was there. Same thing with Tyreek Hill, obviously. But these guys that they have are just like not NFL players. Like, maybe some of them are third string guys on fourth, not even third, my bad, like wide receiver 4 on some teams. I just don't get what they're doing here. So I think that the Dolphins, the way to beat the Chiefs is if you just can take away Travis Kelce. It's a lot easier said than done. But I think Vic Fangio has had plenty of times where he's had to prep for him. So hopefully there is an answer.
Yeah. And then one of the areas you really got to stop him, and this leads me into my next one, moving, I guess, backwards. You have to win in the red zone on offense and defense. With the Chiefs, the reality is that as much as we want to sit here and say, they have lack of wide receivers, I still, to this day, when you play the Chiefs, you got to score points. You're not going to, I don't just see you beating the Chiefs scoring like 21 points. That's an anomaly. That happened week 1, but like, I'm sorry, they're not going to play you the same way they played the Broncos. They're not. And until proven otherwise. So you have to be able to go down and score in the red zone if you're the Dolphins. And then in the red zone, you have to stop Travis Kelce, because that's their number one target. And honestly, looking at their film, their offense hasn't been as explosive or creative. There's not really much to account for when they get down there. So really, it's like take away Travis Kelce and then force someone else to beat you. But that to me is going to be the key to this game, right? It's going to be when you get in the red zone, can you get touchdowns instead of field goals? Can you, even can you get field goals instead of, barely getting out there, especially with Jason Sanders, and then you can't kick a field goal because, it's more than 50 yards. That's going to be huge in this game. It's going to be when it comes time to score points, can you convert? And can you get 7 instead of 3? And can you stop them from getting 7? And have them, kick some field goals a couple times. That to me is going to be huge, a huge factor in this game.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's key for both teams here in the red zone is you got to be honest here. Like, there's going to be a lot of deception in the red zone from McDaniel and Andy Reid. How many times in playoff games have you seen someone from the Chiefs walk into the end zone on like a red zone play? Those are the plays that Andy Reid's going to be calling in this game. And Mike McDaniel, too, has been just money with his play calling in the red zone. And I'd like to think that he has some back page stuff that he's been waiting for this game. So I just think it's going to be fireworks. And if you're the defenses, like, you got to just be on your P's and Q's. Like, there's going to be some stuff you've never seen some double motions, lead blockers coming in motion, just everything's going to be on the table for this. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And if you could win in the red zone against anyone, it's going to be a good game for you. And especially against the Chiefs, you have to, because their defense is going to be able to get some stops here in this game, I do think. And then if their offense wants to score, it seems like they can. And lastly, or my second point here, not last, but is to get out to an early lead. I think that's the sort of game state here for the Dolphins that is most favorable. If you could get out to a 2-score lead and get this one-dimensional Chiefs offense, because as we talked about a little bit, they can't run the ball. And it is just Travis Kelce left, Travis Kelce right. These other receivers aren't doing too much here. There's no guy that stepped up and been like, hey, I'm a guy for you, Mahomes. I'll be open if you want to depend on me. No one's done that yet. So I think if you could get out to maybe a 2-touchdown lead, and this team has to play from behind, you're going to know what they're going to do. And that's better for you. And then on the flip side, your offense can still go out and score. Like if this is a shootout, I think it favors the Dolphins. If this is lower scoring, I think it's not as good of a game state for the Dolphins, because time and time again, whenever I've watched, and this to me is why the Chiefs don't win by margin as much. Like when there's 8 minutes left and the Chiefs get the ball, I feel like the game's over. Like they just run out the clock so goddamn well. Like they are money just running it out with however much time's left. Like earlier this season, I think they were playing the Jets, where he took a knee on the 1-yard line, like just slid down, like could have scored if he wanted to. Patrick Mahomes doesn't care. He wants to win. He doesn't care about stats. He doesn't care about your fantasy. He doesn't care about this, that. So they can run out the clock. If you get into a who scores last type of game, I don't think that's when you win. I think you have to build a lead here, and they're going to have to come from behind the whole game, and you could just keep pace, keep that 10-point cushion. I think that's the key and the easiest path for a victory for the Dolphins. Not the only, but the most likely.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be important to get out to an early lead, mainly just because, I think that these are the situations where the time zone is going to come into play, because it's going to fatigue. It's going to fatigue you, right? Obviously at the very beginning, the adrenaline's going to be high. That's every single game. Your adrenaline's high. You're going crazy, especially in a game like this. There's no home field advantage for either team. And I'd say that in a positive and negative way, because if you're the Dolphins, you don't have to worry about playing in Arrowhead, but also you don't have your own fans, and vice versa for the Chiefs. So obviously there's going to be the adrenaline at first. You're playing in a new place. You're playing in Europe. But as the game goes on, and as you get tired, this is where the war of attrition is going to happen. And I like that the Dolphins came out early, because, man, when you're the Chiefs and you're coming out on Thursday and you have 2 days and you're playing at, it really feels like 11 o'clock your time, it's going to hit you. It takes about 2 days. I take it from someone who just went to Italy about a year and a half ago. I went out there, and it wasn't until the 3rd or 4th day that I was even on kind of a routine. But for the first 2 days, I was getting not anxiety, but it's you're in a new place. There's different time zone. You're having trouble sleeping the right way, no matter what you do. It's hard, and you feel tired often. So if you can get out to an early lead and force this team to play even more one-dimensional, that's going to be great. Then lastly, for me, limit the turnovers. I'll say that pretty much in every game. This is one of those games where you can't give the Chiefs extra ammunition. You can't, because I think that your offense is better. I think actually you match up better with the Chiefs on both sides of the ball than they do with us. You can't give them extra ammunition. And last week, luckily you played the Patriots, but you had 2 turnovers where you gave them the ball inside the 30-yard line. 10 of the Patriots' 17 points came off of that. And I think that if you do that against the Chiefs, I mean, you're asking for trouble. So limit the turnovers. This is I love Steve Spagnuolo, who's the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. I think he's one of the best in the NFL. I know he plays a lot of man. He's really aggressive, but he is a master of disguise. No pun intended for the movie. If anyone's ever seen it, it's a phenomenal movie. But he's a master of disguise on defense. He's going to have a plan for this offense, a really creative one, I think. So if you're Tua, try to limit the turnovers. Do not, don't do anything stupid. This game is, I really think this game is going to be about just methodical, well played football, and you wear them out over the course of a game. That kind of leads to your next point, I guess, of where you're thinking of how to wear them out on offense.
Yeah, I just think the Dolphins are at their best when they're running the football. That's when Mike McDaniel is just in his bag, as everyone's saying. But no, seriously, like the Dolphins are just so much better of a team when they can run the ball and then create stuff off the play action. And this run offense, like the O-line is fantastic. Run blocking, like they're mauling people. And is that going to change if some of these guys, mainly Robert Hunt, aren't there? I don't know. He's been the rock for this team for 2 years now. I don't know if he's even missed a game in the last 2 years. So really stinks to see him possibly not being a go for this one. But yeah, like if you could run the ball, you could just feed off Raheem, what he's been doing this season now, just explosive he's been. And Jeff Wilson, the limited minutes he got, I thought he was pretty solid. At least looked like there was no rust. So I expect him to be used a bit more in this game. And this is just not a good run defense, really. It's allowing 4.4 yards per carry. While on the flip side, the Dolphins rush offense here is getting, if I could get it up, of course, I thought I had it up already. The Dolphins rush offense is getting 5.9 yards per carry. I mean, that's just ridiculous compared to the next best team, 5.1. Surprisingly, is the Cardinals. I think that's probably because Josh Dobbs running around. But this team is just, they are a run first team, or should be. And you probably don't think of that when you do watch this Dolphins team, just because it's Tyreek Hill, it's Jalen Waddle. But yeah, when we're running the ball, we're at our best, and that's the kind of game you're going to be able to beat them with. And this to me also is a game where it's going to be longer drives. I think there's going to be explosive plays from the Dolphins, but I think, like I said, the way I'm envisioning the game, getting out to an early lead, then at that point you can run the ball as much as you want against this questionable run defense. Yeah, so that's what I think you should be doing here. And then we'll kind of just we talked about it a little, but the injury report before this game, I think it was pretty encouraging here, as we've been seeing all week. More and more Dolphins players are returning to practice here. And like I kind of said, and I just want to know, first off, if you've been hearing anything, is Robert Hunt just out?
I mean, I would expect him to not play this game. I don't see that happening. I really think that the whole entire offensive line, the only difference you're going to see is probably Connor Williams in there. Teron Armstead, could he play? Yeah, but I don't think they've even activated him yet.
Have they not? I was going to be honest, like just kind of how.
Well, I know his practice window's there, but I don't know. Like, and normally the Dolphins in the past, like they did this with Jalen, like when they activated them off of IR, they normally didn't start them that same week. So like, I don't expect either of them to play. I'd be happy if Rob Hunt played, but I just think that, Connor is huge. Having Connor there, Kendall, Teron obviously is Teron, but like really Connor's that main one where if you can get him back, I think between Robert Jones and Lester Cotton, you should be okay. I mean, you're going against Chris Jones, so
far, I think.
Right. I mean, you're going against Chris Jones, so like, oh man, But I mean, also, I don't know how serious of an injury is. Like, if you can't play him, you can't play him. But he hasn't practiced the last 2 days, so that's normally not indicative of playing on Sunday.
Yeah, and then it looks like though, from a Dolphin standpoint, it's going to be all hands on deck. Like we said earlier, like if you're available, you're playing, and I like that. I mean, as we've all said, like I think every Dolphins fan knows it. Like this is a big game. I'd be curious. I don't watch like Chiefs fan stuff or anything like that, but I wonder what they kind of think about this. Um, I wonder if they're you know as pumped up for this game as Dolphins fans are. But yeah. So how do we envision the game going? I'm sure everyone's waiting with bated breaths for our score predictions. Dolphins are going to win, and they're going to win by 3 points. I think it's going to come down to the wire here. I really do. And I think you just kind of are going to have whoever's playmakers make bigger plays or is who's going to win this game. And that's pretty basic answer that says nothing. But I think Tyreek Hill versus Travis Kelce, like whoever has more yards of those two guys, I think that's probably the team that's going to win. Same thing with Tua and Patrick Mahomes. Whoever has less turnovers, more yards, more touchdowns, I think they're probably going to win the game. Jalen Ramsey for the Dolphins, Jalen Phillips versus Chris Jones. Like these are the type of games they got to step up in. Christian Wilkins, another fantastic opportunity for you to prove why you want so much money. Go out, play Chris Jones. That'd say a lot. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a game that lives up to the hype. And I'm so jealous of Germany for getting this game. Send over a big time Champions League game or something here. We earned it here in America for letting this masterpiece go over there.
Yeah, man. I mean, I see it similar to you. I have us winning by 4 points. You know, it is actually one of those games where you normally are like, my heart says the Dolphins are going to win, but my brain tells me vice versa. My heart is telling me it's the Chiefs, and don't get your hopes up. But my brain's telling me, like, I know this is blasphemous to say, but I'll say it. We are way more talented than the Chiefs. I'm sorry. The only area that the Chiefs are better in is tight end and quarterback. That's it. And overall, as units, I know people are going to say offensive line for sure. I think that when the Dolphins' offensive line is fully healthy, we are really good, to be honest with you. But I just look at it as Dolphins are going to have Javon Holland back, Xavier back, Jalen Ramsey. I think there's stuff on defense that we haven't been able to do because of that is going to be new that the Chiefs have not seen. And then my brain's telling me, I look at it and I say the Dolphins traveled out there earlier. And if I know anything from learning about travel, is that being out in a place longer is going to be better, especially when your family's there and you get to be with them. So I think that both teams are going to be a little lackluster. I know we both have high scoring games. I think both teams are going to be a little lackluster since it is in a different country. But I think ultimately this is one of those where, because they're playing each other and because they know it's the Dolphins and they know it's the Chiefs and there's the Tyreek angle, I think it will be a more high scoring game just because they're going to like pull max out effort just for that. But yeah, I have the Dolphins winning 34-30. And I mean, if they're able to win this game, I know our producer Joel said this, like we were talking beforehand. If the Dolphins are able to win that game, I mean, they single-handedly control their own destiny, because you head into the final, the final 8 games of the season, where you're probably favorited in all of them except the Ravens game and the Bills game, maybe. You're going to be favored in every game, because even the Cowboys game, you'll probably be favored because you're playing at home. So you're going to be favored in every single game after this, probably, unless something obviously catastrophic happens. But you're probably going to be favored in 5 out of your last 8 games. And I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure like 70% of them are at home. and the Dolphins are incredible at home. We're actually like the best team in the NFL at home. It's the hardest stadium to win in right now if you're not the Dolphins. So if you can win this game, even if you don't win this game, I think we're still in good hands. But my Lord, if you can win this game, that is legitimately, we're talking about the number 1 seed.
Yeah, and I think if you do win this game, like at that point, the Dolphins probably become Super Bowl favorites, as crazy as that would sound. Like from a pure betting standpoint, I think their odds would be the best. I don't think they'd actually be the favorites come
for the AFC. For the AFC, they'd probably be the number.
The 49ers haven't looked great the past 2 weeks. If you wanted to put the Eagles as the favorites,
I would. Yeah,
with me too.
Yeah, I would, but I agree with you. I think like if you're talking about favorites to get to the Super Bowl, I would put the Dolphins at number 1 if they were able to win this game. Because again, you look at their schedule. If you don't mind, real quick, if I read it off, we're finishing off.
While you're getting that up here, the other thing that I was just going to say is also I think at that point too would become the MVP favorite. McDaniel, the coach of the year, Tyreek, offensive player of the year. Like they would be really optimistic times for the Dolphins.
Yeah. So our final schedule after the bye week: Raiders, Jets, Commanders, Titans, Jets, Cowboys, Ravens, Bills. So you are playing at home. Last time I counted that right, I can count 8 games. You are playing away in 3 of them. So you are playing at home against the Raiders. You go to the Jets. Okay. Then you're playing away at the Commanders, and then you're home for 3 weeks in a row. So how many is that? Yeah, out of the last 8 games, 5 of them are at home. So you're playing Raiders at home, Jets away, Commanders away, which you should be able to beat the Commanders. That could be a 70-20 game.
Yeah.
The Jets, we don't know. Tua never played them last year, so I have no idea what to expect there, to be honest. But let's just say I think we should be able to beat them twice. You play the Titans at home, the Jets at home, the Cowboys at home. That's 3 games. And then the final 2 games, who knows? Maybe by the final 2 games, I don't know what's going to happen to the Bills. The Bills still have to play the Chiefs. They play the Bengals this week. That's going to be a very tough game for them.
It's a big game.
So who knows? Who knows? Maybe you're heading into the final 2 weeks and you already have at least your division won. Who knows? But yeah, it would be huge to win this game. It would be absolutely huge because I look at the next 6 games, including the Cowboys, and I say you should be able to win at least 4 or 5 of them. So,
yeah, and that's why I kind of think like as big as this game is, and we've been talking about like if you don't win it, it's not the end of the world because, as you said, there's very winnable games down the stretch, and then the last game of the season, if it has to come down to it, you got a home game against Buffalo, which, man, if that game meant something, that'd be really cool. Hopefully it doesn't. We already have everything wrapped up. But yeah, speaking of wrapping up here, you were talking about the Titans a bit. I'm going to go watch that game. Unfortunately, that's the last game for the NFL before the fireworks in Germany.
yeah.
I wonder if there's some Germans tuning in for the first time and they're going to watch this and be like, what? Like that, we're not having this anymore over here.
No. Yeah. No.
But yeah, from us here at Dolphins versus the World, like, share, comment, subscribe, everyone. Give us all the support you're going to give the Dolphins this week because they need it. It's a big game. So let's do it, guys. Fins up, and thank you for watching.
Fins up.